to show you little green spots. And once it's done, boom, now we generated, via that randomness, our first address here. And again, please don't use this address. That's just silly. We don't want to be like the guy who got made fun of on national television. Well, one thing that's kind of cool about this is a single address, which is great. You can go ahead and print this out and you're all set to go. What I recommend is you go in here to do paper wallet and you can hide the art and generate, like I said, generate 10, 15, however many you want. And then what I would do, what I did here, is I just went ahead and copied these. And I just copied and pasted right into my 1Password, so I had that securely there, and everything was great. Also printed them out, put them in my safe. One thing I wanted to chat with about a little bit here is BIP38 encrypt. You can actually encrypt these as well, which is kind of cool. So you can add another layer of security. So if somebody did access your private keys, if they didn't know your password that you have on top of that, they couldn't do anything with them. So that's really pretty cool. I have some links if you want to know more about that. I just recently learned about that looking at this interface, actually. Very, very cool setup. You can also do bulk wallets, where this is just going to do it. It's something you're going to import. We can generate, however many we want here, which is pretty sweet. There's also a Brain Wallet, which I haven't done yet, and again, Rory has done that. This is something you can ask him about if you want more information. But the basic idea is you create a phrase or a bunch of words, and you generate the private key off of that phrase. And so it never, ever gets on the internet anywhere. It's just in your head. So when they have capital controls, like Italy right now, 20% and different things that are going on, you can literally have your entire life savings and walk across the board. There's nothing they can do. It's in your brain,
Are you going to need bitaddress.org to still be functioning when you want to turn your brain wallet back into a private key?
That's a great question. I don't think so. Rory might know, but I think a lot of different wallets, just like they support the importing of the private key, the question was, are you going to need to have bitaddress.org to convert your brain wallet back into a private key? My understanding is I think Coinbase supports brain wallets, and I think Blockchain Info, actually, Andy, probably does Blockchain Info support brain wallets, do you know?
If it doesn't, then yes.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, I have a mnemonic that's like 20 words from our Blockchain Info wallet.
Nice.
It's this, if I ever lose the .dat file or something, if I remember that mnemonic, it's like 20 different words.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like my understanding, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm an expert, but my understanding is that what Blockchain Info does when you create an account is they actually give you the 20 or so many words mnemonic, which is essentially a brain wallet generated the other way around. They give you the words, and they suggest you write those down because if you lose your private key, you can use those to unlock your account. Because otherwise, Blockchain Info has no access to the account. So otherwise, you use your private key.
That actually, that's funny that you mentioned that. Actually happened to a friend of mine. I told him all about Bitcoin, and he bought some, and he lost access to his Blockchain Info account. He was like, dude, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, you're supposed to follow what I said to do. Nobody actually went through all his emails, and he ended up finding one in his spam folder or something. He got the information he needed, so he didn't lose his money. But it was, we were a little tense moment there for a second. I'm like, oh no, my buddy, who's going to be on his money?
I read something negative about brain wallets. The idea that that's a real, those are real words that essentially it's just a matter of time before.
Yeah, it's funny. There's an XKCD about that a little bit where they talk about passwords. I know a lot of people that use like 3 or 4 full words as their passwords compared to just a random string of numbers. And I felt the same way. I'm like, oh, that can't be secure. But computationally, apparently, it is, because there's so many words in the English dictionary. You think about how many, there's only 26 letters, only a certain number of numbers and characters and symbols, the ASCII table. Well, there's more words than the ASCII table. So depending on how many words you use, there's actually, supposedly, more variability and stuff. But yeah, it doesn't feel the same.
There's also a lot more languages besides English.
Yes, good point.
A lot more what?
He said there's a lot more languages besides English, so you can do brain wallet in Chinese.
Right, you can also capitalize the first letter of
Sure.
every word.
Sure.
You put underscores in there, then you
Oh,
can
yeah.
have
Underscores, symbols, all that kind of
words
stuff.
that don't exist. So it's,
Oh, for sure.
After you get past 30 characters, you're going to be dead way before even a quantum computer.
There you go. The comment was after you get past 30 characters, you're going to be dead before the quantum.
There is a limit.
Computationally, it rises exponentially.
What's that?
Computationally, it
Yes.
rises exponentially with integers.
I think there's a limit on the characters in your brain wallet.
Gotcha.
I don't know what that limit is though. You can't make it as long as you want.
Yeah. So there's a limit on the number of characters you can do in your brain wallet, and the difficulty rises exponentially with each character that you're adding.
And if you hit your head, you lose all
this is true.
Maybe you get to start over anyway, since you made us about it.
That's exactly what I was going to talk about next, because I saw that same thing. I put these slides together this morning and I saw that and I'm like, holy, that's so cool! So you can actually make your own wallet using dice. And I clicked on this, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. If you read through this, basically, as you roll a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, it equates to that. If you roll a 6, it's a 0. And I actually did this, let me see if I can, I'm going to have to tab over.
Did you get all the Yahtzee?
I didn't actually use, hold on just a second. So I actually did this earlier today as I was goofing around. I just kind of pounded my keyboard, mashed on my keyboard instead of rolling the dice. But you come up with 99 characters. You see here, 99 characters selected between a 0 and a 5. And you just put a whole bunch of characters there. And I copied this and I'm like, surely this isn't going to work. This is like too crazy. This can't work. And I pulled it up and hold on, let me get back to my other browser window.
Let me read this link. This is a really fun Reddit post. It's short. Just lost 4 BTC out of a hacked brain wallet. Passphrase is a line from an obscure poem in Afrikaans. Somebody out there has a really comprehensive dictionary attack program running. Fuck, I thought I had my big boy beats.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would recommend not using a phrase that can be found anywhere in the world ever. So that was probably a fail on his part. There's my mouse. All right, cool. So what we do here is literally that 99 numbers, I paste those in here, I say view details, and bam, there we actually have an address that you could have created completely offline with dice. And if you're following some of the NSA stuff, there was actually a protocol that the NSA was pushing that was hacked, for doing random number generation. There was even, I think it was an Android app recently, that people lost their Bitcoins because the random number generator had an exploit in it. And it was if they saw enough transactions, they could actually backward and figure out what the seed was and go, oh, okay, I figured out what the address was. So that's really cool. Again, it's just 99 numbers between 0 and 5. Plug those in here and you can create an address. I think that's pretty sweet. As far as that goes, I think I'm done. Yeah, that was about half an hour. I didn't take up too much time.
So how do we know that bitaddress.org hasn't been hacked?
That's the cool thing about it is it's JavaScript and it's the source code's on GitHub. So I can download this and as a developer I can go through line by line and look and because I'm offline, that's the nice thing about it. Let's say it was hacked. Well, what would they do? It's JavaScript. They can't write to the disk or anything like that. It's controlled by your browser. They can maybe use your browser storage, and then when you connect online later, they can send something off. Those things would be really obvious to see in the code. So it's also the community. One thing that I think Bitcoin needs more of is reputation systems. This has an excellent reputation within the community, and because of that reputation, that's how we can trust it. So, but it's an excellent question. Why do we trust bitaddress.org? A lot of people say there should be no trust anywhere. We're trying to get as close to that as possible. I think back on my slides, I've got a couple other, because this isn't the only site that does this. There's actually another site as well that I think I have links to. Just a second. I switched over to Mac not too long ago, and I'm still getting used to it. Anyway, I'll make the slides available, but on the slides I had a couple other addresses.
It's in your other window.
Is it in my other window?
Yeah, it's a paper log.
Oh, thank you. There it is. When I was looking on my computer, it just said new tab. I didn't see that. Excellent. So yeah, these addresses will be there. One thing I did want to point out, like safepaperwallet.com has a whole other setup for doing this. Also ran into Bit2Factor and BitEscrow. Really interesting ideas. It kind of relates to that whole how do you do thing off of dice. They've got these ideas where you can generate addresses using multiple inputs. And I just looked at it briefly this morning, but it was fascinating. Really interesting stuff there as well. And I think it's a similar concept where it's done as JavaScript in the browser. But definitely worth checking out. There's also this great explanation. Much of this comes from the Bitcoin wiki. So I've got up here en.bitcoin.it. Check out the Bitcoin wiki for all this information. That's where a lot of these links come from. But that's a great write-up, Bitcoin cold storage in plain English. So it's just kind of summary of some of the stuff I talked about in a non-complicated way. And then there's my shameless plug. Any questions?
Did you say, are you putting all those links on Facebook?
Yeah, I'll put them on the Facebook post, I'll put them on the Meetup, I'll post these slides. I may even record this and put it up on YouTube or something. If you guys are interested in like why I'm so passionate about Bitcoin, I did a little YouTube thing on why I think Bitcoin is more disruptive than the internet. It's already got 7,000 views, which is like crazy. But yeah, I'll probably put it up there and see what happens. So, any other questions? Yeah?
Well, I just wanted to add that in addition to the bitaddress.org, there's also a light address for Litecoin.
Oh, sweet. The comment was there's also a lightAddress.org for Litecoin if you want to do Litecoin wallets. Jesse?
Can I explain addresses real quick?
Yeah, I touched on it briefly, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, do you guys understand that addresses could be potentially generated by anybody? The same address could be generated by anybody. It's a random string of numbers created by entropy. And so there is a potential over several trillion years, because of the length of the integer string, that you could produce the same wallet twice. But when you're talking about wallets, you need to understand that this is just a random string of integers. It's not like a specific thing or a specific place. It's just a basically length of integers that where you store your Bitcoin at.
So the comment was that the addresses are just a random string of integers, and they follow a specific protocol. They have to fit what, the Bitcoin protocol has to start with a 1, and it has to have a certain shape and design that's going to fit with the SHA algorithm, everything it's doing. But yeah, it's just a random setup, and anybody can generate them. The process of what we were doing, moving the mouse, and what it did is just generating an address.
It's admitting a few characters too, like zeros and O's for confusion, and ones and L's.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Ones and L's and zeros and O's.
Yeah, there might be some more, but anything that could be misconstrued by someone typing
Nice.
it.
I've done that in my code before too. That's a great idea. That's way
I'm trying to remember if I saw the analogy was that, it was a video on YouTube or something, the analogy was that if you took every grain of sand on the earth, and then within every grain of sand was another earth's worth of grains of sand, that's the likelihood that you would generate the same address.
So that'll probably happen next week. Yeah. So.
And of course, they're specific per cryptocurrency.
Yeah, each cryptocurrency has like a different starting letter. That's how they keep them separate.
They
So.
did not take into account our disappearing beaches, though.
Oh, yeah. All right, well, that's all I got. John, if you want to come up and share a little bit about security. Thank you guys so much. Do you want me to shut this down?
Yeah.
All right.